This is the Week in Sustainability from Sustain Life. It's where our team of sustainability experts and practitioners share commentary to keep you up to date on developing stories and news.
I'm Nicholas Sontag. I'm Senior Manager on the Sustainability team here at Sustain Life. Today, I'm joined by Devin Heater, a Customer Success Manager here at Sustain Life. Thanks for joining me today, Devin.
Happy to be here.
Can you just give us a little bit more background on what you do?
Yeah, as a customer success manager, I work with our clients to onboard them and to make sure they're seeing success throughout their journey with Sustain Life. And I work with our product and sustainability teams to get feedback and build new products for our customers.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Today, we've got two stories for you. We want to talk about the new climate bills that are making their way through the legislature in California. And then we also want to talk about Apple's keynote yesterday, which had a very strong sustainability focus. So let's start with these California state bills. SB 253 and 261 are two bills that passed the California State Senate last week. SB 253, or the Climate Corporate Data Accountability Act, requires companies to verify and disclose their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. It applies to all companies with more than $1 billion in revenue that have operations in California. And this applies to public and private companies. SB 261, or the Climate-Related Risk Disclosure Act, requires companies to report their climate-related risks in line with TCFD. It applies to all companies doing business in California, but with a revenue of only over $500 million. So both of these bills, they have not been signed into law yet, but they are well on their way.
Nick, these bills seems like a big step forward. What do you think this means for the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what's in these bills is in line with the proposed SEC rule that many of you are probably already familiar with. However, these bills do apply to private companies, so they are kind of casting a slightly wider net within that sort of plus 1 billion or plus 500 million bracket. So the companies that would be subject to these bills are probably already prepared or already in the process of getting prepared, because the SEC rule is something that they're anticipating. But these bills do provide like a backstop if that SEC rule is next, which we don't think will happen, or watered down, which is possible. Also, a lot of companies might think that this rule or these rules don't impact them since they don't meet the revenue criteria or don't operate in California. But we are anticipating a supply chain effect from this, where the companies that must disclose begin requesting more reporting from their suppliers. And this is something that we've already seen happen this summer.
I mean, that sounds like a really exciting bill. I also saw that Apple publicly endorsed the bill, which makes sense to me as they seem fairly prepared for it given their keynote yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. So for those that don't know, Apple had an event yesterday where in addition to announcing new products, they reported out on a little bit of their sustainability goals and accomplishments. So Devin, I'm curious. I know you watched the keynote. What were some of the highlights to you?
They talked a lot about focusing on switching from air to ocean freight, which has a 95% smaller footprint. They also talked about their first net zero product, their new Apple Watch. It'll only be net zero for certain models and watch bands, but it still seems like an exciting step forward. And then, of course, as a vegan personally, I'm obligated to mention that they are moving away from using leather in their products entirely. So that's phone cases, watch bands. There'll be no more leather at the Apple stores. What stood out to you, Nick?
Yeah, I love their announcement that they're getting rid of leather in their products. I think it's the kind of thing that might seem minor, but Apple is actually a huge purchaser of leather, just given their pure volume. And this could also start to shift the image of leather as a luxury good. On the air and freight thing the air and ocean freight thing, that also stood out to me because the wording was weird. Like, I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but it sounded like they were saying their switch would reduce their freight emissions by 95%. But what they're really saying is what you just said, is that ocean freight is 95% better than air. One of the other things that stood out to me was they talked about how they're starting to use 100% recycled cobalt in their new batteries. And this is a big deal because mineral recycling is going to be really important as the demand for batteries and battery minerals increases. And also battery mineral supply chains, cobalt specifically, are really problematic and have a sort of poor track history with child labor and human rights.
So all of these accomplishments seem really impressive. They sound really impressive. Should we be skeptical at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think when any big company like this comes out with these types of announcements, we should be skeptical and be thinking about greenwashing. And of course, Apple is one of the best when it comes to marketing. And so while many of these changes I think are noteworthy, ultimately we should be judging Apple by their climate progress according to one goal, their single climate goal. So where are they in relation to their climate goals? They've set a science-based target to be net zero by 2030. So far, they've reduced their emissions by 45% from their base year of 2015. So they're making good progress to that goal. They are, roughly on track. They're like halfway to the goal and they've reduced about half. But the road really only gets harder from here on out once you've already chopped off all the low hanging fruit. So as Apple continues to make announcements like this every year, let's remember to judge them by their overall progress and not necessarily by the flashiness of any individual announcement.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does at the end all come down to your carbon inventory, which is why quantifying it is so important. In their announcements, did you find any of them to be particularly exaggerated?
Well, as always, I'm not a huge fan of companies playing up their nature-based offsets, which Apple did do in their announcement. They talked about, planting forests in all these different places of the world. Those types of offsets are extremely marketable, but they also have been shown to be very problematic in that they're effectively fake or do not offset anywhere close to the amount that is advertised, even when they're, fully certified. Since Apple's goal is to be net zero with a very minimal use of offsets, I think they do get a bit of a pass. Like it is clear that offsets are sort of the last resort for them, but they are, I think maybe juicing them for a little bit more marketing buzz than they should. They also announced that their new iPhone Pros will have a titanium frame, which is a little weird to me because titanium has an embodied carbon footprint of 5 to 10 times more than aluminum and even more than recycled aluminum. So that's a perplexing decision for a company where you're claiming that climate is at the forefront for you. Like, do consumers really need NASA grade titanium in their phones?
I mean, I do, for sure.
Of
I
course.
do a lot of space travel on the weekends, so it's really important for me. But yeah, these are definitely perplexing decisions. Overall, though, what do you think the takeaway should be from this?
I think the takeaway is that Apple does really appear to be innovating when it comes to reducing their footprint. And they're definitely, a leader that is blazing the trail. But at the same time, they've got a long way to go. That trail only gets steeper from here on out. So I'm excited to see what they continue to roll out in the coming years. And that wraps up today's The Week in Sustainability. Thanks for joining us.
Sustain Life is the leading and most comprehensive sustainability software on the market. To learn how we can help your company measure its emissions and take climate action, go to sustain.life. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this show on our YouTube channel or your favorite podcast platform. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.